Hey, it's Franchise CJ here, and I'm coming to you guys with my first playoff match for UBC Season 5. I apologize for the long delay in the last week upload, Week 12, and this game, but it's been really hard to schedule. I've been really busy with work and with travel, so I do want to give a shout out to Jonah for being flexible. And speaking of which, Jonah, aka Iceolate, is my opponent. He and I fought in Week 1, actually, and he was able to snag, I believe, a 2-0 victory over me. It might have been a 1-0, I don't remember for sure. I feel like I was in position to win that game, and I just really didn't play correctly with my Weavile. It could have really just finished off his whole team, but just early season nerves, early season rust. I think I didn't play correctly. And, you know, that's not to take anything away from Jonah. You know, he has a really good team, and he's a really talented battler. He's got really good game sense. He makes good predictions. So anyway, I'm going to go through this team builder very quickly, and we're going to go right into the battle. As you can see, his team is Mega Scizor, Garchomp, Skarmory, Virizion, Darmanitan, Donphan, Vaporeon, Thundurus T, Silvally, Haunter, and Wynot. So Scizor is a huge pain in the butt. It beats a lot of my team, which is why I do have Dual Intimidate this week. And his ground types are also really problematic for me. The thing I'm honestly scared the most of is a Scarf Haunter. Shadow Ball just really tears my team apart, so I'm going to have to be weary of that. But let's just quickly go through the Mons. So we do have a defensive Lando, Rocks, Earthquake, HP Fire, Stone Edge. This is not my spread. I had 16 in here. Showdown does this sometimes, you guys know. It screws up all your spreads. But yeah, this is mainly my switch-ins to Garchomp and Donphan, and it can also deal relatively well with Scizor, because I do have HP Fire. And yeah, so it's just a defensive set. Stone Edge I put on here because it hits Thundurus, and in case I need to deal with a +2 Thundurus, Yache Berry does allow me to live with this BDF investment. Next up, I do have a Rocky Helmet Quillfish, Taunt, Pain Split, Toxic Scald. This Mon deals with a lot of his team. It's my primary switch into Darmanitan, it's my primary switch into Scizor. It deals extremely well with Vaporeon because he can't Toxic me and I can taunt him, preventing him from doing Wish stuff. This also even deals with Skarmory. So, very good Mon this week. Even though we don't have a whole lot of offensive prowess, you know, just the risk of a Scald Burn is very nice. We have a mixed defensive Decidueye, Defog, Roost, Energy Ball, Shadow Ball. This Mon switches into his ground types in addition to Lando if we need. And it also gets rid of hazards for Victini and Weavile, which are very annoying to my team. It can also take a hit from Thundy. We take a +2 Dragon Claw from Garchomp, stuff like that. So just a good bulky set this week. Next up we have an Adamant Expert Belt Weavile, Knockoff Pursuit, Ice Shard, Icicle Crash. With Pokemon like Haunter being in this matchup, I really wanted a Pursuit user to be able to eliminate that thing should the need arise. Otherwise, this Pokemon is just still very good versus his team. The only things it's not great versus is Scizor and Skarmory. So I can apply some late game pressure with this guy. We have Expert Flame Charge Victini. This set's really fun. It can really tear through his team if everything's sufficiently weakened. If he's a defensive Vaporeon, this Bolt Strike should do like 45 to 50, so I need to get him about that low. And I think that's the main thing that I need to weaken. Donphan I probably need a little bit of chip on. Garchomp, depending upon what sort of spread he is, and if he's Yache Berry or not, I might need some chip before I go in for the Glaciate. Then last but not least, we have another big win con, Curse Goodra. He does not have a Fairy type unless he brings Silvally Fairy, so this Mon can really do work versus him. He does have 2 Steel types that are going to be a little bit difficult to break through, but I should be able to work around that. So that is the team, and let's now just hop right on into the battle. So as you can see, he's brought Garchomp, Scizor, Darmanitan, Vaporeon, Silvally, and Skarmory. So he brought both Steel types, which makes my Weavile and my Goodra a little bit less effective. And then he brought a Silvally of some sort, so I'm really curious to see what kind of Silvally that is. And fair warning, this is a very long game, so I'm going to try my best to turbo through. But basically, I'm going to lead with my Quillfish because it leads pretty well versus at least 4 of the 6, potentially 5, depending upon what the Silvally is. The only thing it's not very good versus is Garchomp. And so if he leads something like Skarm, I'm happy to just try and taunt that thing with my Quillfish. And that's exactly what's going to end up happening. He leads off with that, and I'm going to taunt him because I don't want him getting up rocks or spikes or anything else. And he perhaps anticipates this and goes right for the Brave Bird, and he deals a lot of recoil to himself because I do have the Rocky Helmet. He's going to go right into his Garchomp, and I'm going to click Scald just because it hits pretty much everything on his team, and we do snatch a burn first turn, which is really nice. If he wanted to go into Vaporeon, I wouldn't really care about that because I can just taunt it, and it's really no problem. He does go for a Swords Dance as I go into my Lando, but because this thing is burned, I'm not that worried about it. He goes for an Aqua Tail, it does less than 40%. I'm going to get off a nice EQ here. And it procs his Salac Berry, but this thing is not a threat versus me at this point. I'm going to double back into my Qwilfish, because even if he goes for an Earthquake here, predicting this, I'm only going to take like 40%, but I'm more likely expecting the Aqua Tail, and he is going to kill himself due to my Rocky Helmet damage. He brings out Silvally and reveals that it's Silvally Fire. And so, I figure this thing probably has some coverage like Thunderbolt to hit Qwilfish, and I don't want that thing to take damage. And now my Goodra is inside. He has nothing on his team that can one-shot me, especially once I start boosting. So I figured this might be a good chance to go ahead and curse up. Now, in retrospect, this might have been a little premature because he still has 2 full health Steel types, both with recovery, and I don't have Rocks up. But I figure, if nothing else, if I just whittle his team to the point where I can kill everything with my Victini, I'll be pretty happy. So that's kind of my thought here. I don't think this is necessarily going to give me game, but I do think, it can put me in a position to win with something else. And, even if I can get rid of certain Mons on his team, if I can get rid of the Silvally Fire, for example, Qwilfish actually just wins. I missed my first Dragon Tail there, and we will keep a running tally of the number of Dragon Tails that I miss. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process. Qwilfish, it outspeeds, if Silvally goes down, it outspeeds 3 of the 4 remaining Mons. Darmanitan, it doesn't really, it's not really threatened by it. Sure, it can go for Earthquake, but I do have my Lando to combo versus the Darmanitan. I'm not that worried about it. And we're going to do a lot of damage with Scald. And I also have Pain Split on this Qwilfish, so it's going to be very hard for him to play around. So he's doing a good job of picking up Rocky Helmet recoil on me. He's knocking off my leftovers. He's trying to get my my Goodra as weakened as possible. Just limit its longevity because I'm going to be sitting in here for the next several turns. And in fact, I think I might just sort of skip through this. He tries to set up, but I can Dragon Tail him out. He gets a crit Ice Beam, cool. Get a Dragon Tail there. Gets back into Scizor, we get another Dragon Tail. He goes for EQ, and we do tag out the Darmanitan in 1 hit, so that's really nice. So now that's a threat that could potentially hit Qwilfish with the super effective Earthquake, but now it's gone, so that's very nice. So I just need to now get rid of this Silvally. This is where I wish that I had Rocks up, because now that I know that Silvally Fire, it would be really nice to get that thing with Rocks every time it switches in. And that would also be nice for the Skarm and for the Scizor as well, but I started setting up a little bit earlier. I missed another Dragon Tail, and now we'll keep going. We hit this, the Vaporeon with the Dragon Tail, which is really nice. We hit this Skarm. So Volley comes in here. If I hit this, then, or if I hit a Dragon Tail versus this thing, I do about 80% to it, which is really nice, but he's going to switch out and preserve it. And we miss another Dragon Tail, so that's at least 3 that I can remember. And then we go for another Dragon Tail. We phase him out here. You guys kind of get the picture. And then Skarmory comes back in. We miss a 4th Dragon Tail, so that's awesome. And then Silvally comes back in. I really want to hit this thing, but I miss a 5th Dragon Tail. And again, like I said, missing the Dragon Tail on the Silvally is probably the one that's the biggest, because it has a chance. Let me go over here. You guys might not be able to see this, but I'll do my best. Silvally Fire. And he is offensive, is what I've been able to discern, or at least he's max attack. So versus this sort of Silvally, a Dragon Tail does 80.9% min, 95.4%. So it's actually a roll to kill him at 88% there. I can set up a layer of rocks to show, now this is a, it's not going to let me show, but it's about a 56.3% chance to kill. So missing that was really unfortunate. And even if I didn't kill, just to get the damage on that would have been amazing, because then I think my Qwilfish just wins. to be honest. And if Qwilfish doesn't win, assuming that I can get Vaporeon to about 45% or so, then Victini just wins. So that's a little bit of a bummer. At this point, I'm actually running really low on Dragon Tails. I only have a few left. So he brings in his Scizor, knocks me off, you know, etc., etc. And I finally ran out of Dragon Tails, and now I have to go into my Qwilfish. He sets up with his Scizor, you know, smart play, you know, since he recognized that I was probably out of Dragon Tails and he could start setting up, but that's precisely why I went hard into Qwilfish. Because even at +1, he's not going to be doing a lot of damage to me, and I can taunt him, preventing him from setting up any further. He goes for a Wish with his Vaporeon. It turns out that this is a non-attacking Vaporeon, so this Qwilfish really handles that thing quite well. Brings in the Silvally. This again confirms to me that he's, you know, probably going to go for something like T-Bolt. He predicts my either my Goodra or my Decidueye coming in here, and he goes for Ice Beam. I really wanted him to kill my Goodra, but he's smart enough to realize that this thing is no threat to him. You know, he can, just go right on into his Scizor, and I'm going to go into my Lando. I don't want to get my Qwilfish too weakened, because, again, it's practically my win con at this point. He knocks off my Yachi Berry, no big deal. I go for an HP Fire, and I hit this incoming Skarmory. I'm not expecting him to stay in with his Skarm, so I do go for a Stone Edge to hit this incoming Vaporeon, and I do miss. I don't know if the combination of Stone Edge plus EQ would have killed this Vaporeon. I guess I can check real quick, not to make this video any longer than it needs to be. But I'm mostly just curious for myself. Vaporeon. No, so definitely not. So the miss didn't matter. He was going to be able to Wish Protect on me, so no big deal. But yeah, since the Vaporeon is in here now, this is my opportunity to defog away these rocks with my Decidueye. So that'll help me get my Weavile and my Victini in later in the game. He is just going to hit me up with a Toxic, so no problem. I don't need this Decidueye to do much besides handle this Vaporeon. And we are fairly attack invested. I put 140 special attack EVs to hit this Vaporeon. You know, I went for special because, one, I didn't want to get hit with a Scald Burn, and two, I anticipated he would be fully Fizdef this time. Last time he was fully Spadef, but I brought a physical Goodra versus him and a physical Victini, and it really caught him off guard. So I figured, you know, going with Energy Ball would just be better. It would hit it pretty hard. I go for a Pain Split and get off a little bit of recovery. I'm going to try and just pivot around this Silvally a little bit and go into the Decidueye there. Then I go into Goodra. I wanted to get hit by an Ice Beam and let my Goodra go down because I want to get a free switch into like my Victini or my Weavile now. But he goes for Flamethrower. So I just go hard into my Victini because I know that there's no move that he can have really that does a lot of damage to me. He just U-turns onto his Vaporeon, and I go back into my Decidueye because I know I can Roost. And he's going to Wish. This Vaporeon is once again turning out to be a big problem. He goes into his Skarm to Wish it up. If I had Shadow Balled there, I could have killed this Skarmory, but you know, there's no low probability that I went for Shadow Ball there. If anything, I was going to go for Energy Ball or Roost. Like, Shadow Ball is just not that likely. So anyway, I set up rocks versus this thing. We trade rocks just because I want to start getting some of that residual damage on the team. I go for Stone Edge in case he doubles out into like his Vaporeon or something. At this point, it looks like he's pretty determined to stay in here versus my Lando. I'm going to preserve it because I want to, I can use it as, I can sack my Goodra here, and I keep my Lando as sack fodder for later. And if I do get these rocks off the field, then I can, preserve the Intimidate. I go for Bolt Strike because I figured, if he switches into Silvally, the combination of 2 Bolt Strikes and rocks is going to kill. If he goes into Vaporeon, then that Vaporeon is going to die to the combination of rocks plus 2 Bolt Strikes. If he goes into Scizor, I can kill with Bolt Strike plus Blue Flare. And he did the last thing that I expected, though, and he stayed in with his Skarm. But it looks like this is still a 2-hit KO with my Bolt Strike. So he's going to defog and get the hazards away, which is fine with me. I'm going to go for a second Bolt Strike, and I'm going to narrowly miss out on this kill, which is really unfortunate. However, he does get Parafold Parried, so, we're starting to get a little bit of makeup hacks. I could have clicked the V-Create there, the Blue Flare there, but I just didn't want to. Like, I felt like it was still better overall, given what his other options might be. But I don't know if I regret this in retrospect. I am just going to Blue Flare this now and kill it. And even though it's 5-3, it's still looking pretty tough. A lot of my Mons are really weakened. Quillfish is at like 50%, Lando's at 7%. Victini, as you can see, is at about 25%. He goes into Silvally, and I don't really have a switch into this, but I know that Victini isn't going to die to any move he wants to go for. So I'm just going to go ahead and Bolt Strike, get some chip on this. This again confirms to me that he's no bulk invested, that it does 30%. And he goes into the Scizor. I don't want him to BP, so I am just going to go into my Quillfish, get off the Intimidate as he goes for a knockoff. He takes Rocky Helmet Recoil, which is pretty nice. And I think I go for the Taunt this turn. Or no, I go for the Scald because, I want to try and get the burn. And also, there's a chance that he just goes into his Silvally. I'm really trying to catch his Silvally because that Mon is a problem for me right now. I still feel relatively good versus stuff like Scizor and Vaporeon, because I do have this Quillfish around. But if I could have caught that Silvally, I would have been in a pretty nice position. I taunt the Vaporeon. He goes for a Wish. I go for Scald because I think there's no way he's going to stay in here. But he actually goes for Struggle, which I guess is kind of smart. But I'm going to go for Scald again, and he's going to get back up to full again. So, even though there's nothing he can do here, it's tough because, what do I want to do? I want to potentially Pain Split up on him. I want to Toxic him. There's a bunch of things that I want to do here, but, he probably wants to keep his Vaporeon. Vaporeon, it really deals with my whole team if I can't Toxic it. He can Wish Protect all day versus my Decidueye. My Decidueye is poisoned. So, there was Toxic, so it's going to die eventually. So, I thought Scald would be a good play here, but, he anticipates that and is, playing very aggressively and playing very well. He's finally going to switch on out into Silvally, so, of course, this is the turn that I don't click Scald, so he's just sort of predicting around me and doing a really good job. I taunt it. This thing doesn't have any attacks. I do just go ahead and sack my Victini, because even though it can, it's just too low of an HP for it to really deal with any of his Mons. But I can go into my Weavile now and potentially kill this thing with a knockoff. And if he goes Scizor, that's a little bad for me, but I think I just have to make I think I have to make this play now because nothing else on my team outspeeds a max speed Silvally, so he can kill my Lando easily, he can kill my Quillfish with T-Bolt, he can kill my Decidueye with Flamethrower or Ice Beam. Well, maybe he can't kill it from full, but he can do tremendous damage. So Weavile felt like my only play, and he does go out, but he doesn't go out into his Scizor, he goes into his Vaporeon, and I actually crit with the knockoff. Crit was definitely unfortunate because it only would have done about 40-ish% if I hadn't crit, and because he's now without an item, I don't think that the second knockoff would have killed, but it's tough to say for sure. But then I'm going to go for the Pursuit on this next play just because I think he's in a range where Pursuit's going to kill. It turns out it was actually a roll, so I kind of made a bad play risking that there. I really had no reason to do that. But I do kill it, and now the Scizor comes in, and this thing is still very scary to me. I'm just going to go hard into Lando and try and land an Intimidate. No pun intended. And he's going to Roost, which is, totally fine. And he's going to kill me here. Now I can go into my Quillfish, and this is where things get interesting. So I do go for a Scald, because I don't think he's going to stay in here, right? Because there's nothing he can do to me. I've shown Taunt, I've shown Pain Split. I can beat this thing for days. He's at -2. So I go for Scald trying to catch the Silvally, but he leaves the Scizor in, and I don't get a burn, and he goes for SD. So, okay, alright, this is a little bit of an issue. I'm going to Pain Split, get myself up to a decent amount of HP, because I'm anticipating the knockoff. And then I'm going to taunt this turn to prevent him from potentially roosting. He actually went for a second Sword Stance, so, very good on his end. So then he knocks off here. I want to go for a Scald. And I do finally land the burn, so I'm looking like I'm in really good position. He goes for knockoff, and basically, this Scizor it's weakened. I should be in a position to clean up with Weavile, because Weavile doesn't actually die to a burned, bullet punch unless he crits. So all that I need to do here is prevent him from recovering any HP, and this game is mine. But, you know, I guess I got a little excited about my Qwilfish and how well it was doing, and I actually clicked Scald here, thinking, oh, well, you know, he's probably, like, it'll probably kill, and even if it doesn't kill, he'll die to the following burn. And, you know, I don't think he's going to roost because I've shown Taunt, right? But he actually does click the roost. And now I'm looking to be in a little bit of trouble, because now he can Bullet Punch, kill my Qwilfish, and my Weavile can come in and, you know, and take 1 BP, like I said, but there's nothing stopping him from just roosting all day until he gets to full. And then he can kill my Weavile with 2 Bullet Punches. So this was a huge choke. I really screwed up here. If I had just taunted, you know, then I would have been able to win with the either Decidueye or Weavile. It doesn't matter. Like, I could have gone into Decidueye instead of Weavile versus the Scizor. It would still be taunted, so he can't roost. He has to click knockoff. And my Decidueye is holding a Colbur Berry, so he's not going to be able to kill me, even with a crit. So, you know, I should have done that and then let Silvally kill my Decidueye and then let Weavile kill the Silvally, and it would have been a 1-0 victory then. But instead, I let the Scizor heal up. Like I said, he can go for a Bullet Punch, and now I'm in trouble. Because even though this Scizor is burned, there's not a whole lot that I can do. My Decidueye is not fast enough to outspeed this thing, and even if it was, I'm toxic, so it's not like I can Roost Stall versus him. He can Roost Stall versus me. So I say, okay, let me go into Weavile, and I'm going to hope that he goes for BP. I'm going to try to go for knockoff into Icicle Crash, or not Icicle Crash, into Ice Shard. Because if I get a high enough roll on both knockoff and Ice Shard, that in combination with the burn damage should be enough to kill him. And then I think my Decidueye can tank 1 hit from Silvally, and it's got a chance to kill with a Shadow Ball. So that's kind of my play at this point. You know, I'm just hoping that he doesn't roost. But, you know, Jonah's smarter than that. He's going to roost. So I say, okay, the only chance to win now is to get Icicle Crash flinches. So I go for it first turn, and I do get the first turn flinch. That's really nice. But he's still not in range of knockoff, so I go for a second Icicle Crash, and he gets the roost. You know, you guys can see how this is going to go. You know, we're going to continue to try. I go for knockoff just to get the damage, because I'm thinking he's going to roost again. And then now I go for an Icicle Crash, hoping for another flinch, and we do get it. And I think I go for it an additional time here, and we do get it. So things are close here. Things are really close. He can still roost and put himself in position to win, you know, because my knockoff won't kill. I'm also starting to think he's going to go for BP at some point. So I don't know if it's on this turn or if it's on the next turn that he goes for BP. No, I go for knockoff here. I should have gone for Icicle Crash again, just because he still wasn't in range of dying to knockoff. So that was a bad play on my end. I should have tried to get another flinch. I think it's here now that I'm thinking, okay, he's probably going to go for BP. So I'm just going to click knockoff. He does go for the BP. Like I said, I live that very easily. We go for a knockoff. Now he's in range of my knockoff, but it's a 50-50. If he goes for the BP, then I die. If he doesn't, like he goes for roost, I can kill with knockoff. It's just a question of what he's gonna anticipate. You know, like, and there's also a chance that I can go for Ice Shard here to try and get off a little residual damage. But I decide my best shot is to try and catch him going for roost and click the knockoff here. And to call this a 50-50 isn't really. I think him clicking Bullet Punch is a little bit more than a 50% chance here. So it's hard to say. You know, I'm kind of really just hoping that I can make this work. I don't know if it's a coin flip or if it's worse than that. But I digress. The moment of truth is you could click Bullet Punch. No, we get off our knockoff and we kill this Scizor. How many times do you see a Weavile 1v1 a Scizor? You almost never see that. And Silvally comes in, dies easily to knockoff. And that is going to be a 2-0 victory for the Baltimore Oriolus. Really close game. I really played pretty poorly, I think. with the Gudra setting up really early, that late game choke with the Quillfish. I think I could have played a whole lot better, but luckily my team carried me. I just got a really good roster, and I really like using all these mons. And we have an opportunity here to continue in the UBC playoffs. So we are going to be playing against Rizzy Pow in the next week. The way the playoffs are working is that we've got a little bit of interconference games going on between the Aether and the Skull division. So Riz was the 1 seed from the Skull. We are the bottom seed now from the Aether division. So we'll face off against him, and I'm really looking forward to that. Rizzy is obviously a very well-known player and well thought of, and just seems like a generally good guy. So hoping we can pull that off, but it's going to be really tough. And I, of course, want to give a big shout out to Jonah, aka Iceolate, for a really well-played battle. So let's hope that the Baltimore Orioles can continue and can continue to impress and show off, or if nothing else, luck out versus our opponents. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check out the channel for other gaming and Pokemon content. And until the next time, I'll see you guys later.